Coming up on Network Africa, residents in Botswana vote in general elections as President Mokgweetsi Masisi seeks a second term. Kenya's Supreme Court overturns appeal court's decision nullifying the 2023 finance law. Plus, a phone conversation between Nigeria's President Bola Tinubu and US President Joe Biden discussing areas of cooperation between both countries. Hello and welcome to the program today. I'm Layo Olarinde. We begin in the southern part of the continent, in Botswana, where the citizens are voting in the national election that will determine whether the ruling Botswana Democratic Party will continue after 58 years in power. 63-year-old President Mokgweetsi Masisi is aiming for a second and final term. His main opponent is Duma Boko of the Umbrella for Democratic Change Party. Dumelang Seleshando of the Botswana Congress Party and Mefato Reatile from the Botswana Patriotic Front are also putting themselves forward for the presidency. Although it's often described as one of the most stable democracies in Africa, the country is grappling with economic challenges, prompting the BDP to admit that there should be a policy change. The country's economic issues are mainly due to a fall in demand for diamonds, which Botswana's economy is strongly reliant upon. Unemployment is another challenge facing the country, currently standing at 27%. For joining us on the program for more on the election in Botswana is our correspondent Innocent Samosa, who's in neighboring South Africa. Hello, Innocent. Thank you for your time.
Well, a very good evening to you, colleague, and our viewers around the world.
Well, 58 years in power is a really long time for any party, and we're seeing the ruling party holding on to that time in the country. What are the people saying is the reason, no other party has been in power? It's similar to South Africa, the ANC holding 30 years before having to go into an alliance with other parties.
Layo, I think perhaps because it's a story of many African countries whereby the ruling parties, or should I say liberation movements, liberation parties, they cling to power for quite some time. So with the BDP, Botswana Democratic Party, it's the same thing. I mean, they've been in power since 1966. They are now also, campaigning to extend their nearly six decade in power. So Mokgweetsi Masisi, he's fighting for his fifth term. The country went to the poll today. Of course, they're still voting today. A country of about 2.3 million people, and we're told, Layo, that around 6:30 a.m. polls were opened in Botswana. But you rightly said it. In fact, in your intro, you alluded to the fact that the country is going to these elections with a whole host of challenges. For example, the likes of the sales of the downturn on the sales of diamonds. You would know that the country's economy is striving, or should I say, it's heavily reliant on the sales of diamonds. But the challenge is also, again, the issues of the UK trophy hunting bill. It's also the challenge there. But the challenges that came with COVID-19, I think many countries are still trying to really come back to terms or come back to pre-COVID levels. So also that has precipitated the issue of unemployment in the country, standing at 27%. But of course, like I said, he is up against some, people who have been in politics for quite some time, the likes of Duma Boko, who is leading a coalition of political parties under the UDC, which is the Umbrella for Democratic Change. He's, of course, a lawyer. He's been campaigning. He's been, even within during Khama's time, he's been campaigning with these smaller political parties, rallying behind him, hoping that he will get power. But it does seem as though the people of Botswana still believe in the BDP, though, again, I must put a disclaimer, they've lost a bit of popularity. But for now, it does seem as though there are people who still, relate with the party itself in Botswana, Layo.
Indeed, because of the economic challenges we're seeing in Botswana, even the BDP, just like you've mentioned, admits that there should be a policy change. But do we know what kind of changes the ruling party is proposing?
Yeah, so part of the things that is been facing the country, as I've indicated, it's been the issue of trophy hunting bill that was proposed by the UK Parliament. In fact, they also felt like the former president, Ian Khama, was at the center of this proposed bill to really stop trophy hunting. But the president has argued that the people who proposed that bill, they've not interacted with the people on the ground who directly benefit to this trophy hunting process in Botswana. The trophy hunting, sector in Botswana generates about 6 billion a year. So that's a lot of money for a country of 2.3 million people. So I guess what they're trying to do now is because also they're looking at diversifying their means of income as a country. You would know that I've just indicated that they heavily rely on the diamonds. And now there is those diamonds that are made in the lab, like where people prefer to have those ones because they're much cheaper and they look exactly like a diamond. So people would prefer that because of the challenges of economies around the world, and because they would want to put money aside, perhaps, to go after wedding or whatever, and then they'll go put money aside to go for a vacation. So I guess those are the challenges that the country is facing at the moment. The issue of diversifying the economy of Botswana is at the center. This is what many people have been saying, that no, we cannot rely on diamonds alone. So we cannot rely on beef alone. There's a need for us to diversify. In fact, the tourism sector invited journalists last year to come and just tell journalists what tourists can expect in Botswana, and just in a way to attract people to Botswana. But it's an interesting elections. I don't think. I think the BDP will emerge simply because they've been not largely the rallies per se, because we cannot translate the numbers in the rallies to voters, to potential voters. But it does seem as though the sentiment on the ground is that they feel like the BDP is the best party to lead Botswana at the moment. That's what we're getting on the ground so far, Layo.
All right, Innocence, just before I let you go, how soon can we, expect results from the election?
Well, I guess it's still early to tell, but the processes of Botswana is quite swift, simply because it's not really a lot of people, as I've indicated. I mean, but we expecting the IEB, the Botswana Electoral Commission, to basically brief the media. I think they said they'll do it this evening, just after the elections. The polls will close around 8:30 in the evening, which I think it's fair, given the fact that it's midweek. Some people might be busy. There are some entrepreneurs who are working, even though it's a holiday, it's an election day, but there's some people who are still trading. They can still go and basically go cast their vote. So I I don't think it will pass a week. I don't think it will pass a week. Perhaps maybe in 2 days we should have the results of the new government in Botswana. Lion.
Thank you so much, Innocent Samosa, our correspondent in South Africa.
Thank you so much, colleague.
US President Joe Biden has thanked Nigeria's President Bola Tinubu for the release of Tigran Gambaryan, an executive of Binance Holdings who had been on trial in Nigeria for money laundering and currency speculations. Now, this was during a phone conversation between both leaders for about 30 minutes. The Minister of Foreign Affairs, speaking with journalists in the State House, said the two leaders also discussed areas of partnership and cooperation, including the issue of security in Africa and in particular West Africa. Meanwhile, President Bola Tinubu launched the 2025 Armed Forces of Nigeria Remembrance Day emblem and appeal fund in the State House. Our State House correspondent, Lanre Lasisi, has this report.
The Minister of Foreign Affairs arriving to speak with State House correspondents. He gave details of the 30-minute phone call President Tinubu received from the President of the United States, Joe Biden.
President Biden proceeded to thank President Tinubu for his partnership and for Nigeria's partnership, and in particular for the collaboration between the two countries with regards to law enforcement and law enforcement agencies, as well as the release of one of the suspects of the cryptocurrency exchange company that we're all aware of here.
The minister insists due process was followed in the release of the Binance executive.
Of course, there were diplomatic exchanges also and discourse that resulted in resolving that, but it was not purely that. It was also Nigeria following due process and abiding by rule of law.
Earlier in the day, President Tinubu had led top government officials in the launch of the 2025 Armed Forces of Nigeria Remembrance Day emblem and appeal fund. The Minister of Defense, who kicked off the event, thanked President Tinubu for his continued support of the welfare for members of the armed forces and their relations.
This appeal fund we are launching today to provide essential support to our veterans and their families became crucial. The funds raised will directly contribute to welfare programs, offering vital services such as healthcare, education, and financial assistance.
For the president, it is an opportunity to acknowledge the contributions of the armed forces to the development of the country.
No matter what economic theory we propagate or postulate, if we have no security, you cannot promote peace and development. I'm grateful to all of you on behalf of the country. We take today to remember our fallen heroes who had sacrificed their lives, men and women, for the unity, stability, and progress of this country.
With the launch of the emblem, the president and others are decorated.
I therefore take the opportunity to launch the emblem.
The Secretary to the Government of the Federation announced a donation of 500 million naira to the Nigerian Legion. It's expected that Nigerians will also join in donating to the fund. From the Presidential Villa, Lanre Lasisi, Channels Television News.
In Kenya, the Supreme Court has overturned an appeal court decision that had nullified the 2023 finance law. Now, this is a victory for President William Ruto's administration, which had been relying on the 2023 law to continue tax collection after withdrawing this year's finance bill due to widespread protests. Well, the 2023 finance law, which included increased fuel taxes, housing levy, and higher top income tax rates, triggered opposition-led protests and unrest, leading to several deaths in June and July. In response, President Ruto withdrew the bill, delaying an International Monetary Fund disbursement. Mr. Ruto insists the tax hikes are essential for funding development and addressing the country's debt. Let's take a break now on the program. Still to come. IFA launches a library for the deaf in Lagos, Nigeria. Please join us again for more. Welcome back to the program. Nigerian entrepreneur and philanthropist Tony Elumelu has joined a host of global business leaders at the 8th edition of the Future Investment Initiative in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. The intent is to discuss some of the world's pressing concerns, including high cost of living, sustainability, AI, and healthcare. Hosted by the FII Institute, founded by Saudi's Public Investment Fund, the focus for this year's event is on how investment can serve as a catalyst for a prosperous and sustainable future. Channels Television's UAE correspondent Mayowa Adegoke brings us more details.
So Waiter's Full Circle Opera Company sets the tone for conversations about some of the world's most pressing issues.
Today we call on each of you to be the leaders who do not see the world as it is, but that it could be.
Rising cost of living globally, sustainability, energy transition, as well as the impact of technology and AI on healthcare and human well-being are being discussed by global business and government leaders at the 8th edition of the Future Investment Initiative, holding in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia.
On the African continent, over 50% of the continent do not have access to electricity. Without access to electricity, Africa cannot industrialize. Without industrialization on the continent, jobs will not be created.
One of such leaders is Nigeria's Tony Elumelu, who brings an African perspective to a panel conversation alongside prominent global financiers. He emphasizes the importance of power to facilitate wealth creation for Africa's young population.
One side, I see people. On the other side, I'm scared. I'm scared, about the challenges that I see if we don't do something. All of us must hold ourselves accountable. Private sector leaders, government, rest of Africa, everyone realizing that poverty anywhere is a threat to all of us everywhere. And if we fail to do something now, it's going to turn like riding the tiger. It can devour you. So that is the challenge I see.
A few young Nigerian entrepreneurs are also here to further shape the African narrative, as well as seek new opportunities and investors.
In here, we've been able to get maybe in gross for the past, we've been able to get about 50K USD. Generally sending some returns to Nigeria, to Africa, and actually trying to sponsor those children who need to take it. We need more. This is why we came here. We need to do more for our country, home country.
Right now, Saudi Arabia is leading the way when it comes to investment in combat sports. They've been doing some great things with boxing, with MMA. So again, it was just to come and show we're here. Come and represent Nigeria. Come and show what we're doing. And more generally, just beat the drum for the work we're doing. And as I said, we had exciting news in terms of our investment from Silverback, so also to announce that.
Themed Infinite Horizons, Investing Today, Shaping Tomorrow, the 3-day event hosted by the FII Institute will not only facilitate conversations, but drive global leaders to act in the best interest of humanity. From Riyadh in Saudi Arabia, Mayowa Adegoke for Channels Television News.
The Inspector General of Police of Nigeria, Kayode Egbesokun, has joined the representative of the African Union Secretariat, AfriPol Secretariat, and chairmen of all sub-regional police committees in Africa to discuss global and regional security issues affecting the African continent. Well, the discussions are taking place at the ongoing 12th edition of the African Union Mechanism for Police Cooperation, AfriPol, steering committee meeting in Algiers, Algeria. In attendance, presidents, vice presidents, AfriPol and AU Secretariat staff, amongst other dignitaries. On the agenda for deliberations are solutions to policing challenges such as terrorism and terrorism funding, human trafficking and cybercrime, which are transnational in nature. Attendees also hope to improve areas of collaboration and cooperation amongst police institutions in the region. The Inspector General is attending the meeting in his capacity as the chairman of the West African Police Chiefs Committee, WAPCO, and representing West African police organizations. Well, the Managing Director of the Osun River Basin Development Authority, Dr. Deji Ashiru, has cautioned residents in Ifo local government area here in Nigeria, as well as residents of Isheri North GRA, to stop blaming the Oyo Dam for their plight and rather appreciate its efforts in controlling the influx of water. Mr. Ashiru, who made this comment during the stakeholders meeting with some affected communities, stated that without the dam, Isheri and some Abeokuta communities would not exist due to the high risk of flooding.
The gradual release of water from the Oyo Dam, affecting Ogun and Lagos border communities like Itowolo in Ikorodu, Owode-Lede, Isheri North GRA and other areas, has prompted this stakeholder meeting between the management of the Ogun-Osun River Basin Development Authority and some of the communities currently experiencing flooding.
We want these stakeholders' engagement to fashion out a new approach to better manage the Oyo Dam scientifically as the global weather pattern continues to change.
The figures you are giving us now, if we've gotten those figures as regularly as we have been getting them before, it would have been easier for us to manage the situation.
The Managing Director of the Ogun-Osun River Basin Development Authority, Mr. Deji Ashiru, says the Oyo Dam is designed to control flood, and Isheri North is constantly affected by flood as a result of other ungated rivers not managed by Ogun-Osun River Basin Development Authority.
If there is no Oyo Dam, there will not be sharing. If that dam also collapsed today, the entire of Isheri will be submerged. Because the Isheri community where we are here now is on a floodplain. It's a floodplain. Part of Abeokuta would no longer exist. That is for a fact. Until we look away from Oyo Dam, this flooding will continue to persist. Which happened to be maybe the truth. Nobody has told you in the past 14 years.
17.4 million liters of water is released on a daily basis from the Oyo Dam to prevent the facility from collapse. Unfortunately, some of the affected residents are not pleased with the situation of things.
For the first time, I'm getting to know that Oyo Dam is not the cause of our problem. That's a serious issue, because that negates what we have always been told. Two, I'm also getting to know that you are not aware that it is the Lagos State government and Ogun State government that sold this estate to us. We should stop playing politics. This is about lives. I've been out of my house, my family for 2 weeks now, and this is the 6th time. Every year, millions are wasted. I spent over 8 million last year to renovate, just last year. And now this year again, maybe I don't know how many millions.
Will it be hazardous or dangerous if you reduce instead of 12% to 8%, since you have capacity to slow down to help down the crisis down the stream?
Let's begin to discharge 20. If we discharge 20, Ogun River will take it. It's only the other side that will fill it. It won't cross the road. But the moment we exceed 21, sir, based on our experience over the years, it will flow into our communities and we will have problems.
The Ogun-Osun River Basin Development Authority says more dams need to be built to reduce the free flow of water from the Oyo Dam and also to prevent the drastic effects of flood on the people.
And finally, on the program, a new library has opened up in Lagos, and it is to serve the deaf community. The library is the brainchild of IFA Reading Society in partnership with Ford Foundation. This is a major achievement for IFA as it supports inclusive education for all. Our correspondent, Amarachi Ubani, reports.
Caring for children with special needs is no easy task, whether or not there are funds to meet their needs. Visionaries like IFA Reading Society are looking beyond problems of the physically challenged. It is gifting a library to a school for the deaf in Lagos to promote literacy of these individuals with special needs.
Society open.
Located inside Hope Fountain Schools for the Deaf in Ijayi-Ojokoro, Lagos, the library is equipped with books covering all topics, all genre, encyclopedia, and computers to aid educational needs of the students. President of IFA Reading Society, who's also Vice-Chancellor of the Pan-Atlantic University, Professor Enase Okonedo, says everyone should be afforded the opportunity to pursue their education to higher levels despite physical challenges.
A situation in which those that are differently abled are unable to gain the full benefits of an education, in this instance through the lack of a library, was something that we needed to do something about.
Ford Foundation, which provided funding for the library from a small grant pool, says it is big on dismantling inequality across the board.
We are very particular about, dismantling inequality across board, and this is, one of our efforts to ensure that children have access to books and to read and become better, versions of themselves.
An overjoyed founder of Hope Fountain School, Mr. Tony Wokolo, a member of the deaf community in Lagos, thanked IFA and Ford Foundation through an interpreter.
There's a very, very big, great thing that you did for this school. I'm so grateful. Thank you, Ford Foundation. Thank you, IFA. Thank you, IFA Foundation. Thank you, Professor. We are so grateful. Thank everyone here. Thank you so much. He's so happy.
The library had been a cherished dream of his for the past 20 years. Now, it's a reality. Amarachi Ubani, Channels Television News.
And that's it on the program today. Thank you for watching. I'm Layo Olarinde.